Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the Seiko Grand Seiko Spring Drive Divers 200 meter, reference SBGA031. You can see and purchase this Grand Seiko on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner at any time to see our full listing for this watch with additional accessories included, high resolution images, and naturally complete pricing details. Now what you're looking at is a very large watch in a highly technical style with a wonderfully light stance on the wrist, constructed entirely of titanium with one notable exception I'll get to in a moment. The watch sits light on my 16 centimeter, 6.3 inch circumference wrist. Now the bare measurements, again, large but not overwhelming, 44 millimeters across the round of the case, not including the crown or crown guards. The watch is manageably slim at 14 millimeters with a sloped bezel. You should be able to get this one underneath a tighter sleeve or dress cuff without too much fuss. From lug to lug, because of the solid end links of the bracelet, it has an imposing 53 millimeter stance across the wrist. But again, because of the lightness of titanium, this is an easy one to wear on a smaller wrist. You'll see the general proportion of the watch and realize that it wears well on a small wrist down to about 14.5 centimeters in circumference, but because of that 53 millimeter span across the watch, it can handle an enormous wrist just as naturally. Now the bracelet is gorgeous. First and foremost, take note of the finish. Contrasting satin and polished elements, the bracelet's entirely finished by hand. There's a great deal of hand craftsmanship in the Grand Seiko range, and it's delivered at a phenomenally economical price. There's really no compromise here versus high-end Swiss marks in the $5,000 to $10,000 sports watch range, and I'm happy to say that this watch registers at the lower end of that spectrum with no compromises in quality. Now I do want to show you some neat features of the clasp, which is over-engineered. Grand Seiko signed. It features a clamshell and triggers. That's right, it has a clamshell and triggers for absolute security when closed. But that's not the end. I mentioned that there's steel in the watch, and the steel is the internal part of the clasp. The swing arms themselves are made of steel to reinforce them, to reinforce the clasp, which, after all, is the last line of defense between your watch and the floor. This clasp, overbuilt, over-engineered, is also clever in as much as it features an immense inch plus, so 25 millimeters plus of incremental adjustment. There's a small switch, you can see it just beneath my thumb. Press it and it allows you to pull the adjustment out or push it in, so you can adjust it to fit over a dry suit, a wetsuit, or simply take it in and out as your wrist expands and contracts in hot or cold weather. Now, the dial of the watch is no nonsense. Inside a case that features incredible high-polished titanium, a finish rarely seen. This is a treatment rarely seen on titanium and executed by hand in the case of the Spring Drive Diver. But inside that, you see a highly legible diving style bezel with a hard anodized coating, Seiko's rationale being ceramic may be more scratch resistant, but ceramic shatters, hard anodized metal does not. Survivability at all costs, that's Seiko's motto here. Just like the clasp, overthought, over-engineered, but just enough for the luxury customer. Now the bezel has a nice detent to it. You can feel it, you can hear it, and if there's one element that can really wreck a dive watch, basically spoil the soup, so to speak, it's that fly in the ointment that comes from a bad bezel that doesn't feel right or sound right. You'll be happy to know no such shortcomings here. The bezel is just right on both counts, tactile and audible. Now, in terms of the dial, you may be surprised to see the rare usage of a matte lacquer. Lacquer, generally gloss, generally considered a substitute for enamel in watches that don't quite support the price point of enamel. Here, Seiko uses lacquer, hand applied, and uniquely, in the matte finish provides a subtle backdrop for maximum contrast of the polished indices and the satin finished titanium style cathedral hands at center. That's right, the hands themselves are titanium. Now the watch features beautiful finishing within the dial that really starts with those hands. They're brushed like the satin finish of the bracelet, and it's spectacular to loop the dial of this dive watch. That's not something commonly said for base metal dive watches, but the loop actually does reward its usage here. The watch is gorgeous at close range. It uses what's known as Seiko's proprietary LumiBrite lume. So not Luminova here, even the lume, heck, even the sapphire crystal is produced in-house, and it's a formidable battery of in-house competence. Now you can see the power reserve, the Grand Seiko marquee, and you can't quite see at 6 o'clock, but if you could, you would note that Seiko denotes the presence of the 9R65 72-hour spring drive movement. Spring drive is a hybrid of quartz and mechanical watchmaking with 30 jewels and over 270 parts. This is a watchmaker assembled caliber that has the precision of quartz plus or minus 1 second per day. Plus, it has the convenience of automatic winding and, let's be honest, the romance of a large amount of traditional jeweled mechanical watchmaking. This is a watch that really combines the best of both worlds. And with a power reserve on the dial, you know if your watch is about to drop dead before a dive. It's one thing to have a constant seconds indicator to fit the ISO standards for a dive watch. It's another measure entirely, a thoughtful and a useful one, to have an actual power reserve on the watch so you know how close it is to drop dead. Now the caliber also features a number of convenient functions that you expect on high-end horology, including hacking seconds so you can precisely synchronize to a known accurate reference time, and a quick set for the date, so should the watch run down, you can rapidly correct the date wheel. The Seiko Spring Drive Diver really is a watch that has it all. It ticks all the boxes for fans of sports watches, for those who need an only watch to wear with a business suit or a bathing suit, as well as the pure watch nerds who are deep into tech. You can see this Seiko Grand Seiko Spring Drive Divers 200 meter SBGA031 and purchase it on our website.